Thank you all for being here today. We have several members of Congress here, and we're here today at one of America's preeminent academic institutions on a very important day and a very important time. Enjoy your free speech. You cannot censor and silence viewpoints you disagree with. That is not American. You do not understand what it means to respect the First Amendment.
That is Speaker Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives in bizarro land, because that is very much what he's trying to do. He, not only Mike Johnson, but the cast of ghouls and goblins around him have very much had their entire mission in life to silence viewpoints they disagree with, very specifically on college campuses. And there's a special bit of like sarcastic irony to his enjoy your free speech rights. He didn't vocalize the while you still have them, but I heard it loud, clear, and I think most of the people in the crowd did. Around him, he had, was it Patricia Fox, I think it was? Elise Stefanik was there. All they've done this year is hound administrators at college campuses to crack down on people engaging in free speech, holding positions that they don't agree with. Silencing those viewpoints has been their modus operandi the entire year. That's what they're doing. And we're gonna get to more of the Mike Johnson, but I just wanna briefly point out the thing that has bothered me the most about this entire thing.
Hey, I'm glad you're here. Listen, in order for the damage report to keep on going, we need viewers like you to become a member on YouTube. Can you click the join button on YouTube today? Thank you.
I think they understand that this is what they're putting forward, but they don't care. And it's this: Mike Johnson, Virginia Fox, or whatever her name is, Elise Stefanik, care 1,000 times more about college campuses voicing opposition to civilians being murdered than they do about civilians being murdered. They have rage for the president of Harvard. They have indignity for the president of Columbia. But when it comes to the actual mass murder of civilians, women, children, babies, nothing. They don't care. I mean, if it bothers them, they're certainly not talking about it. There's no fiery performances in congressional hearings. They don't see the problem with that at all. The only thing they have a problem with is people disagreeing with him on that. Young people who have not had, like I guess the hope that we can have a better world crushed out of them by the slow, advance of years, or they haven't, like all of those Congress people, been so wholly bought by the wealthy and powerful in American society that their job is to make sure that nothing actually changes. There are people, young people at these college campuses who are advocating for their values, advocating for a change in the US posture towards this conflict. That is what they are supposed to do. That is also, by the way, what they have always done. These sorts of protests are not new. How are they so surprised that they're happening? I remember, I am old enough, unfortunately, to remember the tent city at the University of Connecticut when we invaded Afghanistan and Iraq. It lasted for a couple of years and it generated some of this sort of opposition. Now, you didn't have the same sorts of ghouls and goblins in Congress, so it didn't rise to those levels at that point. But this is part of what college is: caring about what's going on, thinking that it can change, and trying to make that happen. And I understand that these right-wingers don't like their speech, but you guys have kind of backed yourself into a corner through years of pretending to give a damn about free speech. I mean, we talked about the Greg Abbott thing. This is so comical at this point. Like, I understand that you're fakes and phonies and hypocrites, but when you've made something your brand, could you at least pretend to try to have it be your brand? It reminds me of Dave Rubin writing a book, or having someone write a book for him, called Don't Burn This Book. Like a year before he decided to join up with a nationwide effort to ban as many books as possible around the country. These people are clowns, and they're mostly clowns because they can be, because the people that they're being clowns for care as little about these topics fundamentally as they do. But that said, there was more of Mike Johnson. I want to play a little bit more of his speech at Columbia.
My message to the students inside the encampment is go back to class and stop the nonsense. Look, if we want to have a debate on campus about the merits of these things, let's do that. But you can't intimidate your fellow students and make them stay home from class. Think about that. Is that right? Do you think that's right? Stop wasting your parents' money, Congressman Lawler says. I think that's right.
Mr. Speaker,
Last one.
anti-Zionist Jews inside the camp that are celebrating Shabbat.
I don't know who's in that camp over there, but I would tell you that this is unacceptable, and the American people are demanding accountability for it. And that's why we made the trip here today. That's why this press conference is important. We want this administration and the administration of every university campus around the country to bring this to account and to bring this lawlessness to an end. And that's what we need to do.
Yeah, screw Mike Johnson. So he contradicted himself utterly inside of just that clip. So he says something reasonable like, don't intimidate people. Now, there have been some actual things that seem to be designed to intimidate people. The guy who held up the Hamas sign or whatever, that's naturally intimidating. And then there's the effort to say that simply the fact that there are people that hold these positions is intimidating. I don't agree with that literally at all. But he implies, let's just have a debate, implying that we can talk seriously and also stop wasting your parents' money. Utterly condescending behavior towards them. And then a reporter asks a question, a dipping of the toe in the water of what this debate might look like, which is to acknowledge a fact that runs contrary to their narrative. What about the Jewish students that are participating in this that don't support the Netanyahu government and don't support the military strategy in Gaza? Oh, I don't know about them. And I don't care. What, do you think I came to Columbia to learn about the situation, to talk to the actual students? No, I don't care. First of all, he very much knows that there are Jewish students involved in that. They literally held a Seder in the camp in Columbia. But it is incredibly inconvenient to point out that there are Jewish students involved in this when you are attempting to pitch all of the speech you disagree with as being fundamentally and inalterably anti-Semitic. Because then you'd have to make the case that those Jewish students are anti-Semitic, and that gets a little bit rhetorically difficult, which is why he just pretends to not understand it. Well, maybe you didn't know going into this, Mike Johnson, but you've just been informed that those students are there, they exist, they are worthy, I think, of consideration. Why is it that you immediately wrote them off? Would you potentially like to meet with those students? They might be able to teach you a little bit about their perspective, about the views of students on this conflict, but he had no interest, obviously. And it gets even dumber from there, because as bad as Mike Johnson is, as bad as all those people, the Congress people he brought to Congress are, you have people like Josh Hawley and Tom Cotton calling for the National Guard to be sent in. Tom Cotton went on to say that it's like an incipient pogrom at Columbia. Now, Tom Cotton is a moron, so it's entirely possible that he doesn't know what words are or how they work, but implying that because there are people sitting in a tent that you disagree with, they're probably gonna start butchering people tomorrow seems a little bit insane. And if you're going to be sort of saying, if you're gonna try to hold the position that I see a threat in this situation, maybe you're not the right messenger for that, considering that about a week ago you were encouraging people to murder pro-Palestinian protesters, to throw them off the Golden Gate Bridge and drown them in the bay. You're the one advocating for violence in this, not the students. The students are advocating for an end to the murder of civilians. The lines are actually pretty clearly drawn in this conflict, although I understand why he'd want to hide which side of that line he stands on. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.